Imagine standing in the pouring rain, wearing a $3,000 silk dress, while your own mother points you toward a dumpster. That was my Saturday. My name is Cassandra Vance. I'm 32 years old, and for the last decade, my family has treated me like the budget version of my younger sister Tiffany. Tiffany is the golden child, the one who deserved the private schools, the European vacations, and now the $85,000 engagement party that my parents were hosting. I was standing at the grand entrance of the Blackwood Estate Hotel, the most prestigious landmark in the city. But as I reached for the heavy brass door handle, a large hand clamped down on my wrist. A security guard, looking at me with a mix of pity and disdain, blocked my path. He told me I wasn't allowed through the front. He said my sister, the bride-to-be, had left specific instructions. I was to be redirected to the service entrance, the one used by the laundry staff and the garbage trucks. I looked over the guard's shoulder. My mother was standing just 5 meters away in the lobby, draped in pearls. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked at me and she smiled. It wasn't a smile of greeting. It was a smile of pure, cold satisfaction. She wanted me to feel small. She wanted me to remember my place. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that 6 months ago, I had used my career as a high-end commercial real estate developer to quietly acquire the Blackwood Estate Hotel in an off-market deal. They thought they were the guests of honor. They had no idea they were standing on my floor, under my lights, breathing my air. Hold on. Before we get into the real stuff, I want to know, what are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? I love seeing your answers down below in the comments. As I stood there, shivering in the rain while my mother watched me get humiliated, the heavy doors swung open. My sister Tiffany stepped out, looking like a literal princess. She leaned in close to my ear, her voice a toxic whisper. "The service entrance suits you, Cass. Try not to get any grease on that dress. It's the only nice thing you own, isn't it?" My father laughed from behind her, checking his gold watch, the one I had actually helped him afford years ago through an anonymous grant. They turned their backs on me, heading toward the grand ballroom where 100 of the city's elite were waiting to toast to Tiffany's perfect life. The security guard stepped forward to physically nudge me toward the alleyway. My heart was pounding against my ribs. The humiliation was a hot coal in my chest, but then I saw him. Mr. Sterling, the general manager of the hotel, was sprinting across the lobby. He looked panicked. My family thought he was coming to personally escort them. My mother straightened her back, ready for the royal treatment. But Mr. Sterling didn't stop at my mother. He didn't even look at Tiffany. He burst through the front doors, ignored the security guard entirely, and stopped right in front of me. The entire lobby went silent. My mother's smile froze. Tiffany's mouth hung open. Mr. Sterling bowed his head deeply, his voice echoing off the marble walls. "Good evening, Madam Chairwoman. Please forgive the delay. Is everything to your satisfaction, or should I fire the entire security detail immediately?" The look on my father's face was worth every cent of the millions I spent on this building. But the real game was only just beginning. The silence that followed Mr. Sterling's bow was heavier than the humid air outside. I could see the gears grinding in my mother's head, trying to process why the manager of the most exclusive hotel in the city was bowing to the daughter she had just tried to banish to the service entrance. Tiffany's face shifted from smugness to a pale, sickly green. She looked at Mr. Sterling, then at me, then back at the security guard who was still holding my arm. The guard's hand dropped as if my skin had suddenly turned into white-hot iron. He took 3 steps back, his face drained of all color. He knew he had just laid hands on the woman who signed his paychecks. My father was the first to break the silence. He let out a forced, nervous chuckle, smoothing down his expensive suit jacket, the one I knew was bought on a credit card I'd secretly been subsidizing. "Mr. Sterling," my father said, stepping forward with a fake, booming confidence. "I think there's been a slight misunderstanding. This is my daughter, Cassandra. She's She's just here for the party. My other daughter, Tiffany, is the one you're looking for, the guest of honor." Mr. Sterling didn't even turn his head. He kept his eyes locked on mine, waiting for my command. He wasn't just a manager. He was a shark I had handpicked to run this billion-dollar asset. He knew exactly who I was. He knew about the shell corporation, Vance Holdings, that had swallowed this hotel whole 6 months ago. He also knew exactly how my family had been treating me because I had shared my preferences regarding certain guests during the morning briefing. "I asked a question, Mr. Sterling," I said, my voice calm, cold, and echoing through the lobby. I didn't look at my parents. I looked at the raindrops dripping off the awning. "Is this how we treat our VIP guests? Dragging them toward the trash bins because a guest requested it?" Mr. Sterling's jaw tightened. "Absolutely not, Madam Chairwoman. It is a gross violation of protocol. Security Officer Miller will be escorted from the premises immediately and his contract terminated for cause." The guard looked like he was about to faint. My mother finally found her voice, though it was an octave higher than usual. "Madam, Chairwoman, Cassandra, what is this ridiculous little play? Did you hire this man to embarrass us? We are spending $85,000 on this engagement. We are the clients here." I finally turned my gaze toward her. My mother, the woman who had spent 32 years making sure I knew I was second best. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Actually, Mother, you haven't spent a dime yet. You put down a $5,000 deposit and signed a contract for the remaining 80. A contract that, if I recall correctly, has a very specific conduct clause regarding the treatment of hotel staff and ownership." Tiffany stepped forward, her expensive heels clicking aggressively on the marble. "Ownership? Are you delusional? You work in real estate, Cass. You don't own the Blackwood. This is a world-class landmark. You're just a glorified office manager. Stop lying and get to the back before you ruin my night." I reached into my small clutch and pulled out a sleek, black titanium card. It wasn't a credit card. It was the master key to the entire Blackwood Estate, engraved with my initials and the hotel's crest. I handed it to Mr. Sterling. "Mr. Sterling, please inform my family of the current status of their reservation. I believe there's been a change in the guest list." Mr. Sterling took the card with a crisp nod. He turned to my parents, his expression shifting from professional to icy in a split second. "I'm afraid I have some unfortunate news. Due to a direct violation of our code of conduct and a personal directive from the owner of the Vance Group, your event has been canceled. Effective immediately." My father's face went from pale to purple. "You can't do that. The guests are already in the ballroom. The catering is served. You'll be sued for every penny." I stepped closer to him, so close I could see the sweat on his forehead. "Sue me? Dad, I am the penny. And right now, the only thing you should be worried about is how you're going to explain to 100 of your high society friends why they're being escorted out of a building I own." But I wasn't done. The real sting was yet to come. "Oh, and Tiffany," I whispered, leaning in. "The service entrance is still open if you want to leave quietly. Otherwise, security will show you the way out through the front, in front of everyone." The look of utter disbelief on Tiffany's face was better than any dessert the hotel's 5-star kitchen could have served. She let out a high-pitched, hysterical laugh, clutching her engagement ring as if it were a shield. "Cancelled? You can't cancel my engagement party, Cassandra. The flowers alone cost $15,000. The champagne is already being poured." She turned to my mother, her eyes wide and pleading. "Mom, tell her. Tell this man he's making a mistake before I have him fired." My mother stepped forward, her pearls rattling against her chest. She tried to summon that cold, authoritative stare she'd used to keep me in line since I was a child. "Cassandra, enough of this pathetic little power play. I don't know what kind of deal you've struck with this manager, but you are embarrassing this family. Now, apologize to the guard, walk through the side door like a good girl, and we'll forget this ever happened." I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. For the first time in 32 years, her voice had no power over me. I looked at Mr. Sterling and gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. "Mr. Sterling," I said, my voice cutting through my mother's frantic demands. "Please begin the clearing of the grand ballroom. Inform the guests that due to a breach of contract by the hosting party, the event is concluded. However, since I am a gracious host, please move the catering and the open bar to the employee lounge. My staff has worked hard today. They deserve a celebration." My father's jaw dropped so low I thought it might hit the marble. "The employee lounge? You're giving $85,000 worth of food and liquor to the janitors?" "They've shown me more respect in the last 5 minutes than you've shown me in a decade, Dad," I replied. Suddenly, the heavy double doors of the ballroom swung open. A stream of confused socialites began to trickle out into the lobby. I saw the city's elite, the investors I worked with, the architects, the socialites my mother spent years trying to impress, all looking around with baffled expressions. They saw me standing there, flanked by the general manager and the head of security. Tiffany screamed, a raw, ugly sound that echoed off the vaulted ceilings. "No! Stop! Don't leave! The party is just starting!" She tried to grab the arm of a prominent local journalist, but the woman pulled away, looking at Tiffany with a mixture of confusion and secondhand embarrassment. My mother was frantic now, trying to block the exit, pleading with people to stay. But then, the hotel's PA system crackled to life. Mr. Sterling's voice, smooth and professional, boomed through the entire estate. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the inconvenience. Due to the behavior of the booking party, the Vance Blackwood partnership has terminated this evening's reservation. Please exit through the main doors where complimentary valet service is waiting to assist you." The mention of the Vance Blackwood partnership hit my father like a physical blow. He finally put the pieces together. Vance, my last name. The name of the holding company that had been aggressively buying up prime real estate downtown. He looked at me, his eyes finally seeing the woman I had become, not the daughter he had dismissed. You didn't just buy a hotel. You're the CEO of Vance Holdings?" "I am," I said, stepping into the center of the lobby as the guests filed past us, whispering and staring at the unfolding family drama. "And I've been the one paying your mortgage for the last 3 years, too. Did you really think those investment dividends were coming from your failing firm?" My mother's face went white. The social standing she had spent her life building was crumbling in real time. But the biggest blow was yet to come. Tiffany's fiancé, a man from an old money family who valued reputation above all else, walked out of the ballroom. He looked at Tiffany, then at the scene in the lobby, and then at me. He didn't go to Tiffany. He walked straight to me. "Cassandra, you're the owner?" "I am, Julian," I said. "And I think you should know exactly what kind of conduct your future in-laws think is appropriate for this establishment." I gestured to the security footage playing on the monitor at the concierge desk, showing my mother and Tiffany pointing me toward the service entrance. Julian watched the screen, his expression hardening into stone. He turned to Tiffany, who was now sobbing, her mascara running down her face. "My family doesn't associate with this kind of cruelty, Tiffany," Julian said quietly. He took off his boutonniere and dropped it on the floor. But as he turned to leave, my mother did something I never expected. She lunged toward me, her hand raised in a desperate, furious blur. My mother's hand stopped mid-air, inches from my face. 2 of my security team members had moved with lightning speed, catching her wrists before she could make contact. The gasps from the remaining socialites in the lobby sounded like a collective intake of breath. My mother, the woman who prided herself on grace and decorum, was being held back by security guards in the lobby of the most expensive hotel in the state. She looked unhinged, her hair coming loose from its perfect bun, her eyes burning with a hatred I had felt my entire life but never seen so clearly. "Let go of me!" she shrieked, struggling against the firm grip of the men in suits. "This is my daughter. She's a liar. She's a thief. She probably slept her way into this position." The lobby went deathly silent. Even the guests who were heading for the valet stopped. My father looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. He finally knew, that every word out of her mouth was burning another bridge he desperately needed. Julian, Tiffany's now ex-fiancé, looked at my mother with pure disgust before walking out the front doors without looking back. I stepped closer to her, my voice dropping to a whisper that only she and my father could hear. "Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night, Mother? That I couldn't possibly be smarter, harder working, or more successful than you without some help? You spent 30 years trying to make me the shadow to Tiffany's son. But while you were busy picking out her pageant dresses, I was buying up the land under your feet." I turned to my father. "And you knew she was cruel. You watched her push me aside for decades, and you said nothing because it was easier to stay in her good graces than to be a father. Well, the easy life is over. Mr. Sterling." Mr. Sterling stepped forward, holding a sleek tablet. "Yes, Madam Chairwoman." "The Vance Family Trust," I said, my voice projecting clearly now. "The one that provides the monthly stipend for my parents' estate and covers Tiffany's influencer lifestyle expenses. Who is the sole benefactor and controller of that trust?" Mr. Sterling tapped the screen. "That would be you, Cassandra. Under the corporate restructuring from 4 months ago, you are the primary trustee. You have total discretionary power over all disbursements." Tiffany stopped sobbing and looked up, her face a mask of terror. "The trust? You control our money?" "I don't just control it, Tiffany. I am the money," I said. "And as of 5 minutes ago, the behavioral clause has been triggered. Effective immediately, the Vance Family Trust is frozen. The house in the suburbs. It's owned by a subsidiary of the Blackwood Estate. I expect it to be vacated by the 1st of the month. We're turning it into a corporate retreat for my actual family, my employees." My mother slumped in the guard's arms. The fire was gone, replaced by a cold, hollow realization. She had just slapped the hand that fed her, and that hand had finally closed into a fist. "You can't do this," my father pleaded, his voice cracking. "We're your parents, Cassandra. We raised you." "You didn't raise me," I countered, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders that I'd carried since I was 6 years old. "You tolerated me. You used me as a foil to make Tiffany look better. Well, look at her now." I gestured to Tiffany, who was sitting on the marble floor, her $85,000 dream in tatters, her fiancé gone, and her future suddenly looking very, very empty. She looked at the service entrance, the one she had told me I belonged in, and then back at me. "Mr. Sterling," I said, turning my back on them, "please see that these former guests are escorted off the property, and make sure the security guard who tried to block my entrance is given his final paycheck. Tell him it's courtesy of the woman who wasn't good enough for the front door." I began to walk toward the grand staircase, the train of my dress sweeping over the crest of the hotel I had built with my own blood and sweat. But as I reached the first step, I heard a voice call out from the crowd of lingering guests. It was a voice I recognized, a powerful investor I had been trying to close a deal with for months. "Ms. Vance," he called out. "Wait." I stopped and turned. The entire room was watching. This was the moment that would define the Blackwood Estate's future. The man stepping forward was Arthur Sterling, no relation to my manager, the city's most formidable venture capitalist. He'd ignored my emails for months, deeming my firm too young for his portfolio. Now, he was walking toward me with a look of genuine shark-like respect. He glanced at my devastated parents, then back at me, a slow grin spreading across his face. "Ms. Vance," he said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. "I came here for a mediocre engagement party. I didn't realize I'd be witnessing the most ruthless corporate takeover of the season. My office, Monday morning? I think it's time we talk about that downtown expansion project." I smiled, the taste of victory sweeter than any champagne. "Make it Tuesday, Arthur. Monday is moving day for my former tenants." I didn't wait for his reply. I turned and climbed the grand staircase, the clicking of my heels the only sound in the cavernous room. Behind me, I heard the heavy thud of the front doors closing. My parents and Tiffany were gone, escorted out into the same rain they had tried to leave me in. They were stepping out into a world where their credit cards wouldn't work, their names held no weight, and their golden child was just another girl in a ruined dress. I reached the mezzanine and looked down at my kingdom. Mr. Sterling, my manager, caught my eye and gave a subtle, respectful nod before directing the staff to begin the cleanup. The engagement party of the century was over before the first toast was even made. An hour later, I sat in the penthouse suite, the lights of the city shimmering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. My phone was blowing up. 100 missed calls from my mother, 50 frantic texts from Tiffany, one long rambling voicemail from my father begging me to remember the good times. I deleted them all without listening. There were no good times to remember, only lessons learned in the shadows while they basked in the light. I realized then that revenge isn't just about taking something away. It's about showing people exactly who you are when they no longer have the power to stop you. They wanted me at the service entrance because they were afraid of what would happen if I ever walked through the front door. Well, I didn't just walk through the door. I bought the building. The Blackwood Estate was quiet now, the only sound the distant hum of the city. I poured myself a glass of the vintage scotch my father used to hide on the top shelf, out of my reach. I took a sip, leaning back into the velvet chair. I wasn't just Cassandra Vance, the quiet daughter, anymore. I was the woman who owned the horizon. And for the first time in 32 years, everything was exactly to my satisfaction. If you enjoyed this story of justice being served, don't forget to hit that like button and share this video with someone who loves a good comeback story. Make sure to subscribe to Silent Revenge Lab for more incredible stories where the underdog finally comes out on top. Trust me, you don't want to miss what we have coming up next.